Bonjour, je suis Fraser. Me revoilà pour une deuxième semaine de critique des films. Je trouve los français très intelligents. Just by happenstance originally, and then as the week went on more deliberately, I was watching a lot of French films at the start of the week, so I decided to keep that going with some more classic French films that I've yet to see, that I really must get on. So that's what we got this week. We've got a lot of French movies for you. So if you're a big fan of French cinema, like I now am, I've signed up. I've taken the red, white, and blue pill. Red, white pill. I've taken that pill, and I am French. I'm Frenched all the way. The first film, though, is a bit of a bummer. We're looking at Michael Haneke's Amour. Now, this I haven't mentioned it yet in the series because this has only come up, but a cinema in the city I live in has been playing all the Haneke films. Every 2 weeks they play a new Haneke film. So I have watched about probably 10 of the Haneke movies over the course of the last 6 months. And man, do I love Michael Haneke films. The first one I ever saw was Funny Games. And then I kind of worked my way through Piano Teacher and Cachet and Code Unknown and those ones. My favorite being The Seventh Continent. That is one of my all-time favorite movies. That ending, if you know, you know. I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about Amour. Now, Amour really is a big punch in the guts, isn't it? It follows a husband and wife, and the wife has a stroke and loses functionality in her body and mind, and it follows her kind of hospice journey. The whole movie, just about, except for 1 or 2 scenes at the very beginning, take place in the apartment. And yeah, this is like a really miserable watch. I've got a lot of body anxiety stuff going on in my life, like this kind of, I've got a real fear about like disease and cancer and stuff. But watching this movie, it was so much that I kind of came out on the other side. Like, it was so real that it was more documentary than like narrative film. But it's very tender and loving. I take that back, actually. It is definitely a narrative film, but it is so real that you can kind of view it as something more than it's observational. There is a tenderness and a love in this film. The husband... Oh, of course. I was trying to remember his name, and then I just remembered that all the characters in all of the Haneke movies have the same name. So George, he's very stoic, and he doesn't cry at all in the film. And it's so loving and gentle. I'm trying to put it into words. I couldn't really put it into words. I was thinking of the Shakespeare quote from As You Like It, at the end of the All the World's a Stage speech, and the men and women are merely players, and they each go through their lives in 7 acts. That film's about like the progression of life, and the way that it ends is very blunt, and that bluntness of the As You Like It monologue is the thesis of the movie, I suppose, in sense of this, like, I think the words I used in my Letterboxd review, I'm not linking that, by the way, you'll have to find it, is like immutable permanence. Like, there is such a bluntness that Haneke and Shakespeare both use when talking about death and how death occurs and how it consumes you. Death is like a state of being that the transition kind of envelops you. the the quote is, I'm paraphrasing here, but thus ends this foolish existence, second childish, and then nothing. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. And yeah, Shakespeare does like to talk about death a lot, especially in the in Hamlet and stuff. But this is a comedy, so he does get really real for a bit. Isabelle Hubbart's in this film as well. She is incredible for the little amount that she is in it. She's probably only in it for all of 5 minutes, but her inclusions as Eva is so. Man, I don't know what to say about this film. It speaks for itself so much that there's not really much there's not much analysis you can really do to it, apart from just the emotions. It is a very emotionally tolling film. One analytical thing I did notice during the film was almost the entirety of the movie is very, very deep focus. There's only a few shots at the end where you see the focus shift, but I think that was a very deliberate point about what is important to you in like times of crisis or times of sadness, is that you can look at whatever you want, whether that's George's eyes or Anne, who's the wife. I can't imagine beginning to play a role like that of a woman dying of, like, I think she just keeps having strokes, so she has like blood clots in her brain, but the acting is incredible on everyone's behalf. I was completely sold from the second the film began. But you can look at the eyes and the mouth and the tears in Anne's face, the crying, the sound design, just hearing all the yelps and the screams and the cries for mum through the thin walls of this French metropolitan apartment. It was very powerful. It's a must-watch. I'd say get it out of the way while you're young, just so you know. Because if you watch that as an old person, and you weren't ready, you might have a bad couple days after that. The second film I saw this week was Playtime by Jacques Tati. This is an awesome movie. I had the pleasure of seeing it projected in 35mm at the Gallery of Modern Art. Shout out. If you live in Brisbane and you're not frequenting those screenings, what are you doing? It's the greatest resource we have culturally in this city. It's all free. It's a good way to see incredible cinema. And then also while you're at it, make sure you're going out to see bands and stuff. Pay money for it as well. But Playtime centers on Mr. Hero, or Holroy. French names always escape me. And his journey through modernist Paris. Now, this was made in like the mid to late 60s. It was in production for a while, so it would have gone into production right in the midpoint of the 60s. And a lot of those attitudes are reflected in the film. There's a message in there about globalism and about modernism that I think is very important these days, because in my mind, I'm about to get political here, but in my mind, it seems that this kind of a dream of globalism and modernism is collapsing. People have decided to give up on the dream of a one people's unified world, and everyone's kind of just digging themselves little holes that they can defend and lord over. But I think now more than ever, it's so important to look at the failings of modernism and globalism and kind of dissect what happened there. And this movie, for as innocuous as it is, has some very deep, interesting commentary on modernism, in the endless products and the endless uniform grey skyscrapers. However, there is ebb and flow, like all things in life. The structure of the film is business in the day, and then it's joy in the evening. And then the very end of the film shows a world where both are integrated at the same time. The absolute energy of this film is staggering. For a comedy to feel like just exhilarating. I came out of this movie exhausted. This is an extremely exhilarating, joyous movie, and from what I can imagine, endlessly rewatchable. There's so many details hidden everywhere in the frame. I can't begin to fathom how it was created. It was all practical sets. None of it was shot on location. They were all sets. Everyone was directed. And the main character, the main actor in the film, is also the director. So not only was he acting in the film, but he was also directing. So that's even more thought into production. And I remember seeing somewhere that it bankrupted him because of how intense this film was to make. But this truly is high. I did have this conversation with a friend I saw it with. He calls it high art, in the sense of like elevated slapstick, but I think it is the complete opposite. I think it's extremely lowbrow. It's kind of this Dionysian film. It is very much this juxtaposition between a Dionysian avatar, which is Hero, and he's kind of walking around bumbling, just feeling the sensations and looking at the sights, against this Apollyon kind of very structured, architectured, clean, modernist landscape. And then at the end, the integration of the Apollyon society falling down, and all the status symbols are turned into signifiers with all the marks on the back, which is something you'll understand if you see the film. But it all the society breaks down into one joyous kind of party. And to me, that is the lesson of modernism, is about creating rigid structures, and then from those structures, naturally they will break down into something that works for everybody, and that is joyous and human. It is very interesting thinking about the inhuman aspects of modernism and globalism, in terms of economics and structurally, and then seeing that break down into a humanity-focused existence of community and experience and frivolity. That's not the word, is it? Frivolity? Frivolousness. Frivolity. The frivolousness of life all collapsing in on itself at this very modernist, definitely turn of the war. They kept a big thing in the movies that they will have airplanes, so it's big. Everyone's focused on airplanes, which is a very modernist symbol to me. But I think it is an excellent film, and if you have not seen Playtime, I highly recommend you check it out. Be in a good mood, have a nice crisp soft drink, a crisp Coke or something very modernist. Get something that comes in a glass that was $2 because there's a factory down the road. Something. It's a film for the modernist, and I think indulging in those sensibilities and learning how to subvert them in a way that is for the betterment of your fellow man, I think that's a great way to spend an afternoon. This next film is when I really started leaning into the French aspects of this week. So I decided to do a double feature from films I rented at the library. I'll grab them now, actually. I didn't realize how good the library was. I've really leaned into using the library for films. You can Just pick something off a shelf, have a look around. I found a lot of films that way. And I found these two, and I thought they'd make an excellent double feature. First, I have the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I can't move this too far over the side because this is where the poster is. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Cherbourg. I should have really learnt how to say that instead of doing that stupid French intro. And the second film is Climax by Gaspar Noé, but I'll get onto this in a second. The first film I watched was The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Pronounced as Cherbourg.
Going into this movie, I know that it inspired La La Land, and I knew that there was like some sort of musical element. What I didn't expect was for it to literally be the plot of La La Land, of this kind of young love, separated, and then drifting apart. And the entire movie, the entire film, is a single song. Every line of dialogue is kind of half sung, like an opera. But the music never evolves or changes, really. There are motifs throughout that evolve and call back to other parts of the film. But musically, it kind of plods along the whole time as a single song. Now, this is very unique to me. I've never seen this done before. And I can imagine a lot of people really loving this. For me, it wasn't quite my cup of tea. I understand how you could really like it, and the colors were beautiful, especially for when it was made. This is a 60s film as well. But the singing, it kind of gets to me. It doesn't get to me. It just kind of... It hinders the pacing in a way, or commands the pacing in a way that I couldn't really get behind. But that is none of my business, honestly. I think if you love movie musicals and you love elaborate sets and set design and costumes, you're going to love this film. This is definitely a mise-en-scene film. I don't really have much to say on it, to be honest. I thought it was very beautiful and fun. But I did start to fall asleep during it. So, I don't have much to say. It is a classic. It is a classic, though, I will admit. So, I'm glad I've seen it now. I have seen the influences behind great films like La La Land and such. If you like La La Land, watch this. It is like the same story, basically, with a French twist. The set design is really gorgeous. Or like the shop with the umbrellas and the motor shop and the way that everyone's kind of choreographed. It is really beautiful. But that's about it. So, sorry for if you love the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's good. It's very good. But very good. Like, this kind of reveals my sensibilities here. Because the Umbrellas of Cherbourg I thought was good. But Climax I thought was incredible. I have a very complicated relationship with Gaspar Noé. I think he's a pompous dickhead that is in love with himself. But my God, does he make good movies. So whenever I think of Gaspar Noé, it's just the Kanye album cover. I hate Gaspar Noé. He's awesome. But Climax is really fucking awesome. It follows a bunch of dancers that I think everyone knows the plot. Everyone knows the plot of Climax, but if you don't, trying to imagine going into this film, just seeing like the beginning, that omen at the start, and not knowing where it would go from there. I'm kind of tempted to not even describe the plot. If you haven't seen the plot, just like hit the skip button twice, because I'll just say it very quickly. A bunch of dancers get spiked with LSD, and they get like really, they get absolutely fucked up. With that though, there is a temptation to I'll try and be vague here. There's inclination to distort camera technology during sequences of that nature. This film plays it completely straight, though, however, just kind of as a third-person perspective on certain sequences. And I really like that idea, because other films that do distort in sequences such as that in Climax, they don't do it very well. The only movie that I think does it really well is Chopper, the Chopper Reed movie. There's a few scenes in that where certain sequences of that nature are happening, and the effect is so brilliant and it's so uncanny that it is like, I think that's the only, in my head, the only real scene that does it like very well. But on the third person perspective, you see some character introductions at the start, and then it kind of leads into this incredible dance sequence that is very that's very like loose and it's very freeing, the dance moves, because it's all these kind of different styles integrated into each other. Most of the actors in this film are dancers with no previous acting experience. A lot of really good performances, especially Psyche. She is very good in this movie, to the point where I tried looking her up, and she's just not in any other films. She's just a oh god, I hope that was recording. Was that recording the whole? I hope to Christ that was recording this whole time. Yeah, she's just like a model and a dancer, so she's not in anything else. But all of these amazing performances are all done almost completely improvised, which I find very, very interesting. Is that most of the film, there are a lot of long takes, especially in that second half. There is one long take, infamously, that goes for 46 minutes. Intercut, obviously, but for the most part, it is just one continuous tracking shot moving around this building. And it's very interesting in that sense as like a gimmick movie, per se. Because some people like to really like add to the gimmick, but this doesn't feel gimmicky at all. This isn't like a one-take movie. This isn't like a Birdman, or there's that Russian one that does it all in one take. If I was, it was like the Ark or something. If I was Russian Ark, I think. If I was a better film fan, I would know. But this doesn't feel gimmicky in the slightest. It is all leaning on the plot itself and this kind of uneasy feeling you get. There's an Aphex Twin needle drop in this window licker. I can't believe it. That's like really incredible, and it is an incredible needle drop. But it's just this feeling of paranoia and uneasiness. I have seen a few people comment on the racial themes of this film. I'm not one to speak on any of that in the slightest, but I think it's more of a character driven film. I don't think Gaspar Noé was making any racial comments with the casting of the film. I think it was just a reflection of these kind of creatives. So, because everyone's very weird, but I think people are a lot more what's the word? When someone is like a specific race, people, I think they're a lot more like perceptive to that, which like all of the characters are kind of like bad people. And I don't like saying that. Like, I don't like being like, oh, this movie's full of bad people. But yeah, they're all like perverts, and they're all creative people. They're all perverts. They're all drug addicts. But that's everyone. So I think people are more critical and like perceptive of that in a sense, which I don't think is specifically a racial commentary by Gaspar. By no. Lots of very cool decisions and payoffs. The final payoff of the film is very clever, I think. in the sense that it gives you a lot of... It's very obvious what it is, but the fact that it doesn't feel like it has to explain it to you in any way, I appreciate that. There was a few references in Climax to a flag, and I was a bit unsure on what they were referring to, because they referenced this flag, describing it having crosses on it and how it's like gross, and I don't know if they were referring to the French flag. I don't think they were. But there is this weird illusion, and if anyone can clear that up for me, if anyone knows what that's about, that's a plot thread of the film that I will need to watch again to kind of understand what's going on there, because I found that very interesting. I highly recommend Climax if you're a fan of provocative film. It's a Gaspar Noé movie, so of course it's gonna have a lot of shit going on. It's not as deep as it could be, and it does steer away from the really provocative stuff, that kind of like new extremity stuff that Gaspar Noé likes. Like, it's not as bad as, say, I Stand Alone or Irreversible. However, it does touch on a lot of those themes in those films. So it is up to you. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a descent into hell. But if that interests you, with an absolutely banging soundtrack and a lot of really interesting characters, Climax is for you. Now let's close this out with the final film. I had to do this one because I was watching French movies, and it wouldn't feel right if I watched French movies and I didn't watch a classic that I'd never seen before, The 400 Blows. 400 Blows, they should have called it The 400 Glows, because this movie doesn't blow at all. It's incredible, extremely modern with the camera work. That's what I noticed first and foremost. The camera work is absolutely incredible. Lots of really interesting like dolly shots and kind of focus shifts. The scenes where like looking through bars and grates and things, very, very, very interesting. The 400 Blows follows a young boy and his kind of inability to sit down and listen in class, and his kind of individualist tendencies. It's like semi-autobiographical to the director, but it is kind of about individuality and about not wanting to bow down to like these systems. It's about freedom, even though not. It's like a very French thing of like wanting freedom, even though you don't know what to do with it. In this case, the boy doesn't know what to do with it, but he just is rebelling for the sake of it, because he can't help himself. The actors in this are incredible. I don't know what they were like putting in the water back then. Maybe it was like the post-war blues, but all of the children in this film were incredibly like mature and interesting. There was a scene where they had gone to like a Punch and Judy show. It was like a rendition of Little Red Riding Hood, and there was like all these gorgeous shots of all these beautiful, innocent young children, like very sweet and innocent, and then these boys who are only probably like a couple years older, sitting there talking about like what they were gonna steal, and like talking about cigars and stuff, which cigars they liked. And that was very interesting. This kind of like this opinion of maturity and of growing up. I wouldn't really call it a coming of age film, even though it is about like young boys maturing and like running away from home and things. But it is a film that studies control and the inability to relinquish control. That I found really interesting. A lot of the authority figures in this film are just as childish as the main two boys. whether that's like engaging in vices or this kind of ridiculous pride in the teachers. The parents are kind of the like bumbling, not knowing what to do. It is like pride and it's envy, and it's this kind of escapism that the children don't have access to. So in their own escapism, it's viewed as childish, and I think that's like another big thing as well, is that all the adults in the film are extremely childish, but because of their stature and their like place in the societal order, it's seen like dignified, or they are able to get away with it, and that's kind of like this push and pull, this like misunderstanding at the center of the film. I decided to watch this one over like a nouvelle vague. I don't know how to say that. Like a Jean-Luc Godard movie, because I watched an incredible film last year at Goma as well. Make sure you're going, guys. Called What Time Is It There? The Tsai Ming Liang film. And there is a sequence where the main character is pining over a woman that's gone to Paris. So to try and like feel closer, he watches the 400 Blows. And there's this really incredible sequence, this one long continuous take, where you're watching the main character watch the 400 Blows. And this to me is like a perfect like sit at home, watch, digest movie. There's something so like meditative about it, and you get to really sit and think. I really enjoy that about this film. It is one of those films that is like, this used to be true, but this should be like a film bro film. Like film bro should be walking around talking about like, oh yeah, the 400 Blows is incredible. I thought it was really, really, really good and so impactful that it needs like rewatches. I felt this way about a few movies in my life, like Rashomon by Akira Kurosawa. It's like, this is a movie that I need to watch again and again and again to kind of begin to understand the complexities and the depth of it, considering how long ago that it did come out. We need to re-educate film bros, get them on 400 Blows. Nolan is popcorn movies, guys. You got to be watching French cinema, like I did, like literally a couple days ago, and I way cooler than you. Anyway, those are the films this week. Watched a little bit more, so hopefully we can keep this going. I kind of like this idea of themed weeks. If you have any suggestions for themes, let me know. And again, if you want to talk about the movies you saw this week, we'll do a little joint thing. You could be sitting right here, and we can be talking about movies. So, thank you very much. I will see you next week with another video. We're gonna keep it going. This isn't a one-time thing, and this isn't for anyone else. This is for me. So, au revoir, bonsoir, and if you caught my little secret message at the beginning there, call me.